What's up, guys? Good evening. This is Jeff Kohler, aka Option Addict, from over at www.tradingaddicts.com. Tonight, I present the weekly watch list. You know, we can talk charts, we can talk about action points, we can talk about, various levels the S&Ps are going to go, but we're heading into earnings season. So really, I'd rather focus less on the technicals and really just kind of get a good and early peg of what the market's going to be looking like this earnings season. I mean, so far, looks like Alcoa got us off to a pretty good start. The S&Ps are up against a former high going back to pre-flash crash levels, which I think is pretty important. The Dow, which is back up to the underside of these old levels that you'll see back through here, the S&Ps, which is basically, we'll call it about 1180 or so. The Dow's kind of already back and testing the underside of those levels, but the S&Ps is getting there. So I'm thinking about maybe 1175, maybe another 10 points to go before we soften up here a little bit. Seems to be the next action point where we might consolidate a little bit, but like I said, I'd rather get really more of a pulse on how earnings season goes, and really, for anything, I'd rather be paying more attention to volatility, as I think we're probably likely to see a little bit of a perk up in the VIX here this week. This thing's consolidated and wound up so tight here that I thought we would see sub 20 VIX readings before it was all said and done. So look for some kind of a big melt lower. I mean, I think the reaction here in the VIX, it was down significantly on Friday, and the market, was up a piece, but it wasn't all that substantial. But I want to keep an eye on any kind of divergences or any kind of just weird action in the VIX this week. That might be a pretty good signal if the market's going to pull back at all this week. But I'd rather start looking at some charts, just some stuff that's setting up. So as always, dips, rips, and my $10 darlings. Take a look.
The champ is here! 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 The champ is here!
Now then, let's look at a couple of price patterns. I'm paying pretty close attention to old Goldman. And, the banks for the most part, if you look at the BKX, you look at Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Zions, any bank right now, it's going to show a pretty similar pattern to what Goldman's doing here. And it finished up right up against that 200-day moving average. And I'm thinking if it breaks here, you might see financials rip a little bit. And so pick your favorite bank. Like I mentioned, Zions, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, PNC, they all look identical here. Citigroup was the one that had the same pattern, but it was the first one to break. And you can see what it's been doing afterwards. And so if the banking complex is going to do anything like this, then get your hands on a bank. If there's going to be a 15-20% move here in the financials, then get your hands dirty. Pick a stock. I think you can pick stocks and financials right now. Also over into energy. I like this little flag setup and rig. I'll be looking for a breakout this week. It's a pretty good looking pattern. We've also been following HP. You guys remember we've looked at this a couple times in the former weeks. Big triangle breakout and a retest here. Everything held. The pattern's intact. Everything looks good. SU looks pretty similar, but it got a little bit more active there on Friday and some bigger volume. But either of these look like they're ready to trend from here. So take a look at those. I also like, if we're talking energy, we probably got to look at materials. But this move here in AK Steel on Friday looked pretty interesting. It's a pretty big volume there. Now we've had some pretty good trades in Walter Energy and a couple others that look pretty similar to these long dated rounded bottoms. But look for AK Steel to work its way back up to 15. You might even want to take a trade here. You probably see a little bit of profit on the way up to 15, and if it breaks out like the rest of them have, then I think you're in a pretty good spot. It concerns me that steel stocks really haven't done anything in this market rally, but if they're going to go here, which it kind of looks like they are, I think AK Steel is the prettiest one of the bunch. Got to look at semiconductors here also. They're flagging up. Cypress is one of the better patterns here because you got this big old long dated rounded bottom, and I love this pattern. It's one of my favorites. So if prices start to work their way outside of these little flags, then I think you got to get long. That goes for AMD, which is a nice little flag breaking out right here. You can look at stocks like ISIL, which are flagging, starting to turn up a little bit. Semiconductors are at an interesting spot. Look like they might be able to break here. A couple others. HMIN, this cup and handle has got to move. I'm in a position here, actually, which expires this Friday. So it's got to get going. Either I'm going to roll those calls out or this thing's going to break. I prefer the latter. But that's a really, really good setup right there. So looking for new highs. SPF, you won't believe me if I told you, but I actually bought calls on this on Wednesday. Closed them out Thursday. Got a big move. Didn't break out yet, but a lot of volume there. And price traveled the extent of that range in one day. This is one of my favorite of the builders right now, aside from D.R. Horton. maybe a Ryland, but if the builders are going to make a move this week, this is the one that you want to watch. SPF. It's looking good. If the airlines move, keep an eye on LCC. This thing's been coiling up for quite a long time. LOGI, which you got the big pattern here that you had the breakout of, and then you've got prices over the last few days. I'll go into the 30-minute chart here, which have been coiling up pretty well. So a break above these highs means the stock's probably going to make a move for about another buck or so. And I like the volume that showed up here. It looks pretty good. Oh, I'm all over the place here. TC, so this little wedge, this little triangle, prices broke out of that. If they open up a little bit lower here, back down closer to 11, buy that with both hands, because I think the break above the 200-day moving average will be pretty significant. A couple others. ISLN, oh, I've already got this one drawn out. Look how pretty that is. Little cup and handle. Look for the breakout here. It looks good. AN, I've been tracking this one forever. I don't know if it's going to do anything, but I sure wish it would. It's got a really good pattern. Points to a pretty big movement if it's going to go. ARM. Let's zoom out on this one a little bit. There it is. So you can see the highs that I'm looking at here. You can see the higher lows. Kind of a big old triangle pattern looking for a breakout here. That should set up this week if prices stay up. Tesla. You guys know I've been watching this for a while. Maybe this week, maybe not. Last but not least, and this is a real exciting one here, Time Warner. Got to get yourself long some Time Warner. I don't know. I like the setup here. Points to a big move. It's been contracting for a while, so if it does go, it goes. Volume's been looking pretty good here. I could try along here and then look to get at least a move back up to the highs. Which isn't all that great, but if it gets up to the highs and wants to go higher, hey, you're already in a profitable position. So remember, guys, this week, earnings season, anything can happen. Futes are up here a little bit ahead of tomorrow's open, so I'm net long. I actually bought into, I think I took about 4 more positions on Friday. So I've got a pretty big book of longs here, and I think through earnings season, we'll get some ups, some downs. As far as a trend, I'm still pretty confident in the trend that we've got here in equities, and I don't see any major disruption to that yet unless we get just an onslaught of horrible earnings. But for the most part, I still think you want to be long in this tape, and I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. So as always, a shout goes out to all of you, the listeners, for listening each week. Thank you for stopping by. In the meantime, this has been The Option Addict. That's been my watch list. Thanks for watching. Have a profitable week.